This chapter mainly talked about establishing good habits at a young age and the importance of repetitiveness of activities, of learning technique. The beginning of the chapter basically talks about how going slow and reviewing good articulation, positioning, posture, things like that, doing that slowly and repetitively is okay, even though it might seem like too much repetitiveness. But if students are meeting like once a week or twice a week and they don't bring their instruments home, at least not to begin with, then it's good to review those important habits so later down the line they don't grow into bad habits by not knowing like what to do. And I can kind of relate to this because I had a bad bow hold from middle school to high school. Arguably still now I do, but I'm working on it. And maybe I'm not exactly sure how I was taught, but maybe I wasn't taught properly. And I had to work really hard to fix the bad bow hold because I played with it for 6 years, like unknowingly. So speaking from experience, it's really hard to break out of a bad habit. So so I definitely won't teach my students a bad bow hold if that's the only thing I do. And it's important to do left and right hands separately at first because it might be hard for younger students to coordinate themselves by learning a bow hold and a left hand shape at the same time. And then eventually down the line you can put the two together after you do guitar position first for violins and violas. So they kind of have an easier time coordinating themselves if they know separately what to do. It's also important to accommodate different types of learners, so whether it's tactile learners or audio learners or visual learners, a good teacher will accommodate all those students so that no one is left out, hopefully. Improvisation at this age is also super important because it encourages creativity, and learning this personally I think at a younger age helps down the line, helps with confidence. And starting out with basic keys like C major or D major will work well because they're kind of limited, so they don't have too much creativity, so they kind of like they're not lost. So sticking with simple keys, rhythms, maybe writing out, you could use like a quarter note, an eighth note, a half note, and meters. So like using a drum beat maybe in the background so they have a steady tempo that they can work with. Sizing instruments is also important. Bending your arm like this for violins and violas, making sure that there's like a small bend here. We'll show you that it's like a good size. For cello, making the end pin long enough so that the scroll is at their nose and that they can make a minor third interval with their first and their fourth finger. And for bass, making sure that the nut is kind of at the forehead level. Also, lesson plans are super important. Having technique goals and music goals and having time slots like established before you start teaching will make sure that you hit all your goals and also have enough time to do everything at once, because if you have like a half an hour slot to teach 30 kids, then you definitely want to know what you're doing. Rote strategies is learning strategies without music. So for example, like posture, for all instruments, you can do a technique called growing an inch, which is like imagining that there's a string at the top of your head and pulling up their body so they have good posture and their body's like lengthened and free. And for left hand shape, you can do the top hand down strategy where you descend either a scalar like tetrachords, and you start with your hand shape, and once you lift a finger like this, you'll have like a good hand shape for all of the notes instead of placing them down.